it was another day on Nomura 2. For Cliff Rawlins, that meant a day of hard labor, scraping bastnaseed ore from the side of a trench under an unrelenting sun. A day just like the one before, in a string that went back far enough that he couldn't rightly say how long he'd been there. He was fairly certain it had been at least 2 years, and possibly 3. If you told him that he was into his 4th year... The bastnaseed deposits on the planet were located in the middle of a vast desert. The workers were all prisoners, convicted of what, in an earlier age, might have been known as capital offenses. Most came from civilian courts. A few, like him, had been in the military. He was unique in that he was not a murderer, kidnapper, or rapist. He was also innocent, but if you asked any of his fellow inmates, they would say the same thing. None of the others cared what you did before you arrived. Life was simple. You worked or you died. Sometimes you died even though you worked, when a trench collapsed and your fellows weren't able to dig you out in time. Other times, death approached more slowly. The government furnished all of them with masks to keep the dust from their lungs and goggles to keep it out of their eyes. He was one of the few who actually wore his. Most of the others found them annoying in the 40 to 50 degree Celsius heat of the day. Of course, that meant that the radioactive elements and poisons in the dust nestled into their lungs, hastening the day that they could no longer appear at morning muster, or lodged in their eyes, eventually making them near blind. When you couldn't appear at morning muster, or could no longer see, the guards would take you to one of the flitters. The flitter would fly off into the desert. It would return a couple of hours later without the prisoner. With dark humor, the guards called these emergency medical flights. The rumor among the prisoners was that if you had been well behaved while in custody, the guards might do you the favor of pushing you out of the flitter at altitude, so you wouldn't suffer long. If you had been a pain in the ass, they would deliver you to the desert floor gently and leave you to die more slowly. The government fed them enough to keep them productive and made sure they had enough water. They furnished the prisoners with clothing to keep the sun at bay, sturdy jumpsuits. The bunks had blankets, which were necessary, since the temperature dropped to around 10 degrees most nights. There was no fence or walls around the compound. With nothing but desert for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, any prisoner was welcome to try his or her luck. Usually 1 or 2 in every arriving group would make the attempt, most of them never to be seen again.